Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh.
And your starfish, Patty XRP.
Well, today we got some interesting news that was released a couple days ago. Flare Networks has a new institutional partnership with Delchain. So there was a big press release that came out here. This was on April 28th. So Delchain partners with Flare to advance seamless cryptocurrency transactions. Now, Patty and I are going to go through why this is important, and this was, kind of overlooked by the community. And there's more to this than just the press release, and we'll get to that because we did a little deep dive, and I think you're going to stick with us to see what we found out here. So now, Patty, what is it about this Delchain that makes this partnership so special?
Yeah, so one of the things that's really cool is that this is just like a subsidiary of a larger bank that is international in scale and also has been around for, I want to say, like 70 plus years. And it's also a very forward thinking bank. You can kind of almost think of this as like a CeFi provider. So I think there's a lot of possibilities for them, and they're clearly, trying to innovate within the financial space.
Yeah, this is that bridge. Like they say right here, Delchain is a leading one stop shop for blockchain financial services and aims to bridge the gap between regulated financial services and the world of cryptocurrencies. Now, this is a very forward leaning company, but they're not just getting into crypto, they've been into crypto for a while here. So they're going to be acting right here. They talk about how they're going to be that this partnership. Delchain is now officially a custodian of Flare Network Spark token and the assets that can be bridged onto Flare, which are F assets, by receiving coming and future tokens within the Flare environment. Delchain's participation adds an extra layer of authority. So now, Patty, this process is trustless, and now we're adding an extra layer of security. I mean, I think this is really adding to that security and as low risk as possible here by adding official custodians in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so like this is a perfect service for, you know, maybe high net worth individuals or like, some smaller enterprise companies to utilize a crypto, like essentially a crypto bank custodian to interact on Flare. They have a lot of different offerings like staking, and, you could get fixed yield that way if you don't really, have the desire or
Mm-hmm.
want to be participating like directly on the Flare blockchain. So there's a lot of options here and a lot of things they can do.
Yeah, there really is because this now is going to open up the corporate world, the high net worth individuals, like you said, to decentralized finance. And this is what Hugo says, even right here. He goes, custody providers play a very important role in making the decentralized world accessible to financial institutions. So it's a very forward leaning bank in general. So it's a 70-year-old private bank based in the Bahamas. And we're going to go through that. But I just want to go some of the services that they offer is multi-currency fiat banking, digital asset custody, they have the capital markets, and initial offering advisory. So
Yeah,
let's
and
move.
I was gonna say, just to add into that like people with a lot of money or just institutions in general, like they're gonna want to go through custodians like this because they can get more, like insurances on their assets and all that, especially if that institution is custodying other people's assets or like managing their money. They need to like have these backups in place just from a legal standpoint. So this is like exactly where they come into play with that.
Yes, absolutely. And the XRP ledger is also designed, they're going to be holding FXRP, which means they're going to be on the XRP ledger too. And the XRP ledger is designed for the whole gateway model where these institutions are going to be the on and off ramps. So this will add capabilities where we just won't have the Coinbases to go through to get onto decentralized finance. As these forward leaning institutions come in, then the apps will partner with them, say like a trust line or something, and then allow you to connect your bank account to bring funds in, or a corporate, and then they could build products. So they won't have to interact directly with the DeFi the way, say, a retail DeFi consumer does or we do. They could have their applications and front end built for them that interact with then the Flare Finance ecosystem. So I think there's a lot of possibilities here, and it kind of is just setting the stage. That's how I look at this from going from there. So you see how they support XRP as one of the assets. They support a lot. And now let's go over to the bank here. So this is Deltec Bank. And you want to go through these different groups. So they're an international bank. And one thing that we found was that they had a whole digital asset division just for crypto.
Yeah, and on that note of them being international, it looks like their two like main, offices are in the Bahamas and Singapore, which we both know are extremely friendly to crypto. So I just find that very interesting, and I think we'll see more, kind of businesses like this pop up in maybe places that aren't the U.S. until Congress gets their act together and maybe passes something that allows these firms to participate inside our borders.
Absolutely. And I mean, we have to ask the question. We didn't dive deep enough yet to find anything, but this is the biggest bank in the Caribbean, right? Or in the Bahamas. Now, Bahamas just had the sand dollar come out. And you have to think, is there a connection? They're big on digital assets. We're going to look more into it. I'm still just speculating here. But the fact that this is the biggest private bank in the Bahamas, and the Bahamas just released the sand dollar, it's something, to keep in mind here. So these are the type of forward-leaning institutions that are going to be first at the forefront. It's not going to be necessarily, your Morgan Stanleys or those type of institutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the interesting things about like the Dell chain, so the Deltec Bank subsidiary that's managing all the crypto operations that they have, is that they have like initial like token advisory, and they're connected with Kraken and Bitfinex. So that leads me to just be on the lookout for maybe those are going to be exchanges that are definitely going to have Spark trading at launch. So basically the way they describe their advisory service is they help you launch your token on an exchange, basically, with the partners. So I find that very interesting. And then also they have a staking service. So similar to like, some of these other CeFi providers where you stake your assets with you and they guarantee you like 7 or 8% yield. That's a big thing. And, I can kind of just think about like real world use case. I have like a couple of buddies whose parents or their dads are basically doctors. And one of them was kind of getting into this stuff like on Nexo and all that. And for somebody that's already like, earned a lot of money over the course of their life, that doesn't want to take like all the risk that comes with some of the DeFi products out there, this is a really good way to just earn a fixed rate. Because, if you already have millions of dollars and you're making like 7 to 8%, I mean, people would, I feel like are going to fall head over heels for that, basically. Especially, and if they're bringing in institutions too, there's like fund managers and stuff, like they would love to de-risk with some kind of fixed yield in the portfolio of assets that they're earning. So this is just another way for more institutions to get into the game. So it's just going to, as we see more of these things pop up with Flare, like it's really going to drive it forward.
It really is. And they could build that like custody layer that will kind of buffer the lower level DeFi applications from those, say, hedge funds and other type of funds where corporates could invest directly, and there'll be an application, a front end. And this is that merging of what we've been talking about of CeFi and DeFi coming together. They kind of need each other, because what this also does is it brings the liquidity into the Flare network. So with all this DeFi, you have that arbitrage. So to connect the DeFi, like say Flare Finance's liquidity pools to these exchanges, that's what allows liquidity to flow. And Uniswap, you could see how it's trading billions, but the gas fees are a killer. Where on Flare, this is going to have a built-in Oracle system. So the biggest risk in DeFi is really Oracle system. And now this is built in at the layer 1. And now you're having these institutions being built to DeFi from the ground up. So we're going to have the whole XRP community. So this is one thing. And then we found this. So take this with a grain of salt. It was just a Google search, and the link is dead. So, speculation here, we found this. So, October 7th, 2020, it's just Dev Protocol wallet, Ripple first DeFi protocol based on Flare Networks enters test phase by Dell Chain. offers a wide range of solutions for digital money. So this link is dead. Only came up here. Couldn't find anything on Wayback Machine. So what do you think here, Patty, with this, how Ripple could be involved with this whole Dell chain?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely think that like they probably have been doing some kind of testing with wallets and everything, especially since they're acting as a custodian. But with Ripple's connections with Interledger, it almost lends me to think that maybe they're kind of helping out with some kind of wallet application in the future. So I mean, I think that's what that could be. I wish we would have seen this in 2020, but yeah, it's very interesting to me. Yeah, and so also to add on to all this, so if Dell Chain's going to offer staking services for people to earn fixed yield with them, then they're obviously going to need to be participating in the Flare network. And so they're taking the risk here of dealing with the variable yield rates and things like that. But I think they are a perfect firm to be basically possible signal provider, or at least delegating votes to a signal provider to earn that way in the FPSO. And then also they have a lot of experience with capital markets here and trading, market making, lending, and borrowing. So since they manage assets, I think they would be a perfect candidate to act as an agent in quotes in the F asset system, since we don't know exactly what that entails. But they do custody, and we know that on the native blockchain side that's integrated with Flare network, they are going to have to be custodying those native tokens. So like when you mint FXRP, you're giving your XRP on the XRP ledger to whoever the agents are on that side of the position, basically. So they kind of scream a possible agent to me. So we'll have to see how that, especially if they're doing the staking. Like, there's a lot of money to be made in custodying the assets on the native blockchain, because you can earn additional interest with them and things like that. But they're also going to need to have the technical expertise and financial expertise to be able to honor redemptions in a timely manner, manage collateral. So it just seems right off a bank's alley.
Yes, it does. So I just did want to point out there that it is still trustless, that process, and you have a claim. But they're adding an extra layer of security because the agent is now a custodian themselves, but they're not necessarily a custodian of that XRP, because you have a claim back to get that XRP whenever you want, and it has to be there because it's connected to the State Connector system and connected to the Flare network. But that claim is handled by somebody who is an agent there, and they're also a trusted custodian. So it's like a layer on top of a layer here. So it's like trustless, and then the people who are operating the trustless system are custodians themselves. So that's, I think, some important to note here, where a lot of DeFi is handled by just everyday retail people or anonymous aspects. This is a more mature foundation for DeFi, and you're bringing in an entity that has the capabilities and the connections globally to make markets, liquidity, like you said, Patty, asset management, and then they're going to build their services and products off of this. And then other partners will build service and products off of that. So this is how you start out a DeFi system, I think, in the right way. And like you said, it is the ideal partner. I really do see it that way. And the delegating, this is definitely in the realm of data. I see signal providers as like the data side. Now this is the asset management side, is the agents. So I mean, all types of business models can be created between these two technical entities that are going to be all different types of entities, though, right? I mean, it's just a breeding ground for a new financial system.
Yep, exactly.
So, and this adds the bridge to XRP. So just as there's a bridge to Flare network from XRP, there's also a bridge back. And it's very important to note. We're going to cover that in a future video in the next day or two about RA and how that's going to be over on the XRP ledger. It's just a release about that. But for the time being, speaking of digital asset management, this news came out about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Miguel Vias joins this Digital Asset Management Limited. Now, he's on the board of directors there. And I just don't think this is a coincidence now. There's no direct ties to anything I've seen with Flare or Ripple directly, but I just think this is interesting because this is in Miami, but they're based in Gibraltar and they're like a licensed financial institution, a broker. So, what do you think this role could be played in here, Patty? Do you think they could play a role?
I mean, I definitely think they could.
Speculating,
We
but
all know that Miguel Villas is very bullish on XRP. And, I haven't heard him talk about Flare necessarily, but I'm sure he's keeping an eye on it. So we could see that digital asset management might be expanding into the XRP ledger space, which, a natural move over would be onto Flare as well, since they're so connected and a lot of that value is going to be pouring over from the XRP ledger, especially in the early days of Flare. So this is definitely a firm with him moving there that I would be on the lookout for in the future.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a transition and an evolution of a lot of these like early day crypto custodians that were just cold storage and I hold it for just my institutions. Just the way retail is transitioning, a little faster from just I hold it on my nano ledger and that's all I'm gonna ever do for 10 years. I'm gonna sell XRP at $100. Like that might work, but in the meantime, there's all these applications being built that are DeFi related and they're replicating the financial products and system of the traditional markets to start. But that composability is going to allow new products to be built and higher yield and in a more transparent way. So you could know the risks because there's transparency on certain aspects. And unlike the traditional markets where, Patty, you're very well aware in 2008, we had the financial crisis because there was no visibility or transparency into some of the risks. Like that won't be a problem in DeFi because there's the full transparency of like the network. Even if you don't know who owns it, there's the asset is held in a smart contract and it's there. Like you could see it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all these blockchains are, open source code and everybody can go down into the layer one and on the blockchain and pull data out. I mean, obviously you need to have the technical expertise to do, but it's not something that's like crazy that, you could go and learn how to do that. And then plus, we have firms that are, I guess they provide the data from the blockchain for people. So that's just another service line that pops up.
Yes, it does. That's going to be important. See, because Flare Network is a data provisioning network. And it was hard. Hugo has said that that's the Flare time series Oracle. So in the beginning, there's going to be these certain price feeds out of there, but there could be more added on into the future. And when you build these signal providers, which are basically oracles, they're going to build businesses on top of themselves. And it's that data provisioning. So they'll curate that data and make new types of products, and they'll be further expand out. And then you get in the banking industry. Banks is moving into data. They're going to be want to know basically, for their clients, that's where it's going. AI, machine learning, data. So Flare is set up to be perfectly suited for this future world that we're headed into. And, to do DeFi in a regulated way, I just was reading yesterday that the World Economic Forum is going to come out with a DeFi policymaker toolkit. So that's exciting to see that they're acknowledging that and how regulators are going to handle that. And that's something that really the CFTC is going to be involved in, not the SEC. Now, what do you think of regulatory side of DeFi going forward, Patty? What do you think we foresee in the future? Moving away from the Securities and Exchange side to now the CFTC.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to do it right, they're really going to have to find a way to allow people to innovate, without too much red tape, basically. And I feel like if the regulators are going to get too restrictive, that this technology has already proven that it can circumvent any kind of regulations out there, and people are just going to continue to do that. Like, let's remember the people that made Bitcoin, or like when that first started, that was a damning of the current traditional system. And a lot of people feel that way in crypto. So like, just because some regulators say, oh, you guys can't do it this way, if it's way too restrictive, then people are going to find ways to circumvent it. And I think that's going to draw, value out of the traditional system. The best way for them to do it is meld them together and make it work for both sides to, try and lessen the blow on all these like traditional financial rails and ecosystems.
And that's some great points you make right there. But to date, the CFTC has been very open to DeFi. And
Yeah.
there was a recent presentation in December where they knew all about DeFi and they were all excited about it. They were hiring from Silicon Valley. Very different organization than the SEC. And yes, Gary Gensler was at the CFTC, but that was like a decade ago. So it has evolved dramatically. And that's really the main regulator for DeFi. Regardless of whatever happens to crypto, DeFi is out of the reach of the SEC. So I just want to make that clear, because I know all the focus is on SEC right now, but they play really no role when it comes to DeFi and all this other stuff. FinCEN does because there's the KYC AML, and I do want to let everyone know about that. Uh, there's ways it could be innovated into the DeFi. So expect to see that with like PayString and other types of applications like Zum Wallet is going to have anonymous KYC into it. So those things you can regulate in a way. It's going to have to be regulated for the technology, and they're going to have to use the technology to regulate it because there's no more a central entity in the middle, and the regulations are built around you regulate the central entity or the endpoints. So Patty, if you have no endpoints and people are staying in this DeFi financial world, how do you regulate it, the endpoints, if nobody's getting off and on?
Exactly, and that's why they need to make them favorable, right? Like
Yeah.
they need to be favorable enough to where people are willing to exit because there's some kind of incentive or like, they're going to benefit from exiting DeFi. But if they make it so strict and they tax it so much, then nobody's ever going to leave, and that's going to keep money out of this traditional system that we all know is having a tough time right now. So they really, I mean, hopefully, like, the CFTC keeps at what they're doing. They're definitely probably the most hopeful regulator I can think of right now in the US at least. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And I mean, we think of everything as like the US, but it's really once the gas fees are under control with Flare Network, and even in the future, if ETH 2.0 is successful, Polkadot, other ones, the third world's going to come into this. And they're coming. They already all have phones. So, regardless if the US likes it or not and tries to regulate the crap out of the endpoints and tax it and do whatever, it's coming. Like, there's no stopping this now. I mean, crypto is one thing and Bitcoin, but this is a whole new animal and it's developing in a whole new way that you haven't even seen like IMF reports on DeFi. Like they don't even know how to react to it yet because one, it's so young, but at the same time it's moving so fast. And it's like, wait, now this isn't just speculation of Bitcoin going up and down. These are financial products. Now once you add in tokenization, security token issuances, and that, it's just going to snowball. It's going to explode. And with all the crypto value, now you have trillions of dollars, and now you have all this value in there. You don't need to pull it out, and more is going to be coming in than's going out, and it's going to stay in there. And the token, and the other thing is the ICOs. Everyone's like, well, they're going to clamp down on regulations. DeFi has now opened a whole new distribution model for how to spin up, layer 2 and DeFi applications. And even like Spark, for example, Flare. There's no investment in it. Flare Finance, there's no investment in it. And YFin, you're liquidity mining it. So these are all happening at a rapid pace. And 99% of the tokens that everyone said was going to go away, do you think those are all going to go away, Patty?
Not 99%. I imagine, we have some fall off as this market matures, but it's just every day there's new use cases for tokens. So, I just think that's going to keep expanding. And, on this point of regulation, which, I think with a lot of examples we've shown, if, I think people should not fall for that FUD every time it comes out and somebody says they're going to regulate this stuff away. I don't know how many times that technology needs to prove itself, but every time it finds a way to circumvent or evolve and get around. And, it's the regulators that are always playing catch up. It's not technology that's playing catch up to the regulators. Technology is a much more powerful force than, human regulation. And I think that's just going to continue, especially as our technology keeps increasing at exponential rates. I mean, just think about how long it took for DeFi to pop up after the ICO boom to circumvent, scares of securities and stuff like that. I mean, it took a couple years. So, and it's only going to, increase in speed. So yeah,
There's no middleman needed now. This all
yeah,
happens through protocols and software. There is ways to regulate it and do consumer protections in a safe way and without harming innovation. And that little article, I didn't bring it up now. We'll do a future video on it with the DeFi Policymaker Toolkit. Says that the regulations kind of be built in. There are different type of regulations and consumer protections. Like, are there bugs in the smart contract? Is there some kind of decentralized insurance? So
yeah,
those are things. There is way to regulate to protect the investors. It's just not the old way. So
yeah,
the protocol, the bugs, things like that can be, and even KYC and AML, they could be built in that could be verified without giving up the data. So you could still keep your privacy and verify that that person is, say whoever, they're just a U.S. citizen, for example, and they're not on a blacklist, for example. You just only need to verify. That's all that needs to happen. Like when there's trading going on Coinbase, you have KYC of both of them, but they don't know who each other is, who you're trading with, and that's how kind of DeFi is. You don't know who the other one is, but you know that both of them are KYC'd if you're on Coinbase, right?
yep, exactly. And it's like, people worry about crypto and the government like latching down on it, but now we have the US government trying to pass bills that would keep an eye on everybody's inflows and outflows out of their bank account and give that power to the IRS. So it's like I just don't understand this fear with crypto that it's going to be squashed. Like it's something that can clearly happen in the current system, so that's kind of my view.
Yeah, you're not stop. At this point, it's going to be a third world. Once the gas fees come down, this is now more than just buying and speculating. It's now they can use this stuff. There's going to be a social impact. You have the NFTs thing blowing up. I mean, it's just moving forward at a pace that is a tsunami. And America, the U.S. might try to pull out some regulations, but it's moving so fast they can't even put something out to catch up to it. So
Yeah.
until we see, they need to actually. So maybe that working group, like when they said for a year, maybe they need that much time to just figure out. It's moving so fast. What they thought 2-3 years ago, oh, we're gonna regulate the endpoints, and that's irrelevant now. Gary Gensler's speeches in 2018. If I see one more video of that, they're just not relevant anymore. They mean nothing because the industry has changed so fast. So what is it going to be in 3-4 years from now? So on that note, I think we're going to be out. I'm Mickey B. Fresh,
I'm Patty XRP.
and we're out.